All right, at 7 o'clock, we'll call a meeting of the Finance Committee to order. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the following conference line, 1-929-205-6099, Zoom meeting ID 871-710-4019, password FinCom, all caps FINCOM. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. If the select board want to.
I'm good. Open the meeting and select board. All in favor? Aye.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the first item for us was a report from the town administrator and town council regarding Upper Cape Tech resident student enrollment.
Thank you. So I am joined by Brian Bertram, town council, and as the committee and as the board and the select board and the finance committee know, we have been attending, we've attended 2 meetings with Upper Cape Tech and DESE and the town administrator of Wareham. And I did provide a memo in the electronic packet that you received. And the bottom line change has been that a total of 20 students were removed from Bourne's student enrollment numbers. The lists that we were working off of were the October 1st, 2025 enrollment list, and that is the number that generates the FY27 budget assessment. So while we're building and while we're looking at the FY27 proposed budget, the student enrollment numbers that is based on are the October 1st numbers from 2025. So as I had previously reported, there were 14 students that were originally moved out of Bourne's enrollment numbers. And then I had spoken to both groups about another 11 that we were questioning. And we had a chance to take another look at that. One of those students, the one who is currently, or the one that we had identified as residing in Carver, has been explained to be a McKinney-Vento eligible student. And then there were 4 students that we had originally identified as not residing in the town of Bourne that we were not correct on. So 3 of those students are residents of a condominium complex in town, and the driveways have street signs. However, as internal driveways, they are not roads or ways laid out under subdivision control. So they don't show up as streets in our records, but we were able to locate those 3 residents as condominiums here in Bourne. And then there was the final question address that we were questioned. The street name is common. Both towns have that street. I think Bourne has Cleveland Circle, which is where the resident is located, and I believe Wareham has a Cleveland Court maybe, but so the address was common on a street name that was common to both. So, but we were able to identify that the property in question is the town of Bourne residents. So out of those 11 questioned, 4 of them remained with Bourne, and then 6 of them were moved off of Bourne's enrollment, for a total of 20 moved off of Bourne's enrollment. So I'm happy, I've provided you all of my notes and documentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. at least on the part that I was involved with. And that is where the number stands now, and that is what the assessment that you've received for tonight is based on. And the total number of resident students, 9 through 12, is 215.
Thank you.
And so what's the total value that we were able to recoup from this transaction?
So, that was the 6 additional students that were moved off was a reduction of $115,962.
And for the original
14,
14?
it was just over 250,000.
365,000, 66,000 roughly. Now, this is just for the students of this year, correct?
That's correct. So all I'm talking about right now are the October 1st, 2025 students.
Okay,
That's all I'm talking about.
right. Can anybody respond to what action will be taken to avoid this in the future?
Through the chair, I'd be happy to. Roger Forget, Superintendent, Upper Cape Tech. I've mentioned actually at the last couple of select board meetings that I've attended. The plan moving forward is to provide each town with a full listing of all of the addresses for them to validate and confirm through the assessor's office that they are actually the addresses within their town, so that this does not happen again. That should ensure that at least from the validation piece from the town, that is in place. Additionally, we've taken steps internally within the freshman application for parents to actually have to denote which of the 5 towns, not any of the villages. They no longer can put those in as their permanent address and must denote to Wareham, Bourne, Falmouth, Marion, or Sandwich.
Thank you.
Of the 20, can you break out the grades?
Yeah, so the memo, at the very end of the memo, 7 out of the 20 that were removed from the Bourne enrollment numbers, 7 were freshmen, 3 were sophomores, 5 juniors, and 5 seniors.
So have we been paying for these 20 students? Well, 5 seniors, 5 juniors, 3 freshmen throughout their career at Upper Cape. Have we been paying for those students? Anyone?
I was gonna kind of piggyback on that. That was sort of my question. Thank you, Anne Marie. So I don't know who would answer that for us.
Do you know, Roger, the answer to that?
I actually have not gone back to look through to see if those addresses were included or not. And the Department of Education can't tell me exactly when they were adjusted to a particular town code. Were they accepted and put in and kept the same? Or were they changed, and at what date were they changed? So I can't, the answer right now is I could not tell you.
I think it's important to know the answer to that. I think we need to take a look back. I mean, I don't know if you're aware that we've already put in motion a request through a letter that town council and Marlene are going to draft that asks for calculations on assessments and looking back for student enrollment with addresses per grade, by grade. But I think we really need to look back to that point where those seniors were freshmen. So that would be 22. It's been a while since I've done my elementary math. But, so, I think it's really important. I think being, fiscally responsible, being our fiduciary responsibility to the community, that we, the taxpayers, should have an understanding of what that impact might have been. So I think it's important to look back at the financials, how the calculations were assessed, what those student enrollment numbers were with addresses and per grade back from like 2022, 10-1, 2023, and 2024. We know 10-1, 2025, we have that information. I don't know what the impact is. I can't say that we're going to act on it because we don't know what that impact is, but I think it's an important fiduciary responsibility to look back and ensure that the taxpayers have an understanding of what that impact might have been. For me, it's really important because it's, the expectation is the taxes being paid come back to the town, right? In the form of resources, in the form of services, in the form of, goods. And I think that's something that's given we know definitively that 5 were seniors, 5 were juniors, 3 were sophomores. I mean, it's a daunting task, but I think it's an important task. I'm sure Roger's looking at retirement soon, like as you said, I think it's just an important task.
Wayne?
Do we know how this happened? Did the parents register them from the wrong town? Where?
So there would be a multitude, I don't want to take your spot.
I think it's a
There would be a multitude of reasons for it.
Would you come to that
actually
microphone
playing.
so that people at home can hear?
Because we share a zip code with Wareham, Buzzards Bay, now you have, the Department of Education has it noted for 2 towns to actually be noted that they can be from either town. You have a case where you have students who are school choice from kindergarten through 8th grade that have been in the Bourne system and actually live from Wareham. It could have been the town code and just a data entry, and that certainly could have happened at Upper Cape. It could have been on Wareham's side of how it was noted and kept into the SACID so that the SIMS data actually indicated where they were from. There are a multitude that could have played in here.
So what you're saying is that Upper Cape does not correlate the actual student name and address to an individual community?
So, no, that's not accurate. In our system and into SIMS, we do have to do that. But if it's already into, and we get an error message saying it's not accurate, that could be for a variety of reasons. And I have copies of those that actually denote the students as actually living in Bourne that are not students from Bourne. And that was an error message that came right from the Department of Education. And I provided Rob Curtin with those. So there are a multitude of reasons. They're certainly not ones that are acceptable by any means. But at the bottom or at the end of all of this, Upper Cape Tech's budget doesn't change. It's the assessment to the towns that have changed and who actually is getting that assessment, whether it's Bourne, whether it's Wareham, whether it's Falmouth. So this would be an issue now to go, and we certainly can provide that, but this would be an issue between both towns because the educational piece has been paid for. It's really a matter of who should have paid for it.
Well, it has an impact on the taxpayers.
And I live here in town, so I
Right.
certainly don't want it adversely affecting my taxes.
As you were saying, I mean, if we look at the number of years that these students were going in that we've already paid for, just quick math, I've got to be careful here with educators. I come up with 38 years worth of, if we look at individual students, you know. In other
I
words,
get it.
you have 5 at seniors.
Right, 5 for 4 years,
Sure.
that's 20.
Sure.
5
So,
for 3 years,
but I mean,
18.
that's over $500,000 that we paid out.
Depending on per pupil expenditure on that a given year, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And then but you also have to remember the Chapter 70 aid that was provided for those students that the town did receive on the other side. So you'd be responsible for that to go back. And that's for each and every student for each and every year. This is a multifaceted issue that, and both town administrators sitting with the CFO and other financial people from DESE was explained that, yeah, that opens up quite a bit of Pandora's box to who's responsible for what. Because it's not just as simple of, well, this town paid for this student, so now this town owes this town that amount of money. The Chapter 70 aid is very different for the town of Bourne versus the town of Wareham. And that percentage that's provided for those students is very different. So I share that piece that it's certainly a little more complicated.
I'm sure it is complicated.
Yep.
But I think that we should at least take a look at those numbers.
Oh, absolutely.
And
And
see
I'm
what it
happy
did.
to,
And the calculation and assessment to the town, because the calculation is not correct. If we calculated 200, let's just take this year, for example, this fiscal year 27, we were going to be assessed for 235 students originally,
Right?
right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's 215.
Right.
So that assessment to the town is incorrect. So how many years was that assessment incorrect? Based on just the Bourne students that we should have been assessed for? Because it's calculated, our operating budget is calculated per student enrollment, and the capital assessment is per student enrollment.
Would it be fair to say that the assessment for these particular students were consistent throughout their tenure at the school?
We don't know that, we'd have to go look back.
yeah, I would want, before I would take that leap, I would actually prefer to do a full forensic piece and audit through to see
Yeah.
if that's correct. Actually, the capital is based off of the total number of students in the town of Bourne.
Right.
Town of Wareham, so it's not based off of the enrollment at Upper Cape.
Well,
It's actually off of the total
student,
numbers.
yeah,
Correct. So it's purely the operating assessment, but that's tied to your Chapter 70 aid that comes to the town.
Yeah, I mean, sorry,
No,
go ahead,
it's
Melissa.
okay. I mean, I was just gonna piggyback off of what Anne Marie said, that, I mean, I think it's really important, and I think it's our fiscal responsibility to figure it out. If we have that many students, especially seniors, right? Seniors, juniors, sophomores, that could negate to be a lot of money. And I think we should be able to look at it at the very least, so we can at least tell the taxpayers what happened, and then we can decide what we're gonna do, if anything. Like you said, who knows what's
I
gonna
don't know
come
what
of
the
it.
outcome will be.
But it might be a good idea, just so we're clear and there's transparency on it, and the questions are answered, because we all know, we've seen the internet and Facebook and all of the misinformation that goes around town that's being spread. I think that's a great way to fix that, so that we know. So that's my thoughts.
But I think we can, sorry, I'm speaking out of turn. I didn't raise my hand. Did you want to say something, MJ?
I actually have a question for town council. Because for abatement purposes for your property taxes, there are rules and regulations about when you have to file that abatement in order to have it be allowed. This is a different situation, and we've gone through years of audits and certified free cash, and I don't know what the rules are, but I would like to know what the rules are. Like, what is the legal law authority statute for going back to prior years? So for this year, for FY '26, it's kind of still an open book. It hasn't been closed, it hasn't been certified, we're still in process. But before we go down a rat hole of doing a lot of investigation on prior years, if there is no statutory authority to go back, then I'm hesitant, and I don't know how much time it would take to do any of this. I think the only way to verify the addresses is through the comparing it to the assessor's database, and I don't know what the process is for doing that. So I just, I think it's excellent that we have caught this. I think it's worth looking into this year, and maybe then looking at other years if it makes sense. But I don't want to get people's hopes up that they can actually do anything, because if there's no rules about it and you can, then that's
Then we
fine.
should, yeah.
But if we've closed the books and it's done, and we had our opportunity to challenge and we never did, okay, but we still have an opportunity for FY26 to challenge, because we haven't closed
And
the
those have been corrected?
for FY26.
No,
No,
FY
27.
Yeah, but
We're talking
FY26,
That's right.
That's still okay.
if the October 1st enrollment of 2024 was incorrect, and the assessment for
Understood.
this current year is incorrect, we still have an opportunity before we close the books on FY26 and get our free cash certified to actually, hopefully, do something about it. I would think, because we haven't closed the books.
I think that was the expectation of everybody in the room.
Yes.
I understand the other homework assignment, I'm gonna need to look at that.
Yeah.
I said at the last meeting, I hadn't even thought about where this might go, I was being honest, we were just focused on fixing the problem for this fiscal
Yeah.
year. So I'd have to report back at a later date on it.
I appreciate
It is-
that.
It is a complicated question, to put it mildly.
Right.
Agreed.
Right.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that, I'm gonna push back a little bit on the whole zip code thing, because looking at what you produced, the Upper Cape, the list, there were several 02532 zip codes that were correctly identified. Like well over 30, I think I counted 32 zip codes that were correctly identified as being Wareham, or Bourne, 02532. So I'm a little confused about, I just don't think the 02532 zip code is as big a problem as, for student enrollment purposes and numbers, to differentiate Wareham or Bourne students, based on this list.
So I
That was
agree with you,
correctly-
yeah, because I
Because we
know.
had that whole conversation, but you look at the list, that's,
Well, for me, it was went back to real estate, because when I sold houses over on Monona Road, it's an 02532 zip code, and we had issues with the closing because it was in Wareham and it had a Bourne zip. So we had to finagle it somehow at the closing table because of the zip code. So that's true, it's weird. It's a weird,
no.
yeah. We had to look, of course, they figured out Monona Road was in Wareham.
Right.
It was pretty big, yeah.
So I have a
Amanda?
question. So I heard Roger's answer about the addresses, but I didn't hear our answer on how we plan to make sure that we're sort of on top of this and diligent moving forward, and that we have the validation in place.
So it's really something that there's going to have to be a policy conversation with the select board, because as you know, as I spoke with the select board, I think at their last meeting, myself as a town administrator and municipal departments have no authority to work in the education sphere. So I don't work for the school committee. The school committee is separate and distinct. I don't have an oversight role. I'm not involved with school system operations. So it's something that I think that the select board is gonna have to discuss on to what extent we're even able to insert ourselves into an education process.
I would suggest that providing a list of addresses to validate is not inserting yourself within. In fact, by your own admission, there were 4 that were condo projects that no other way other than the assessor's office would anyone know that those were actual addresses within. Certainly not anyone in my school system to know that. So
I'm going to disagree with that, because you had them listed correctly on the list you sent me
Yeah.
on March 17th. So
Again.
you did have them correct on your March 17th list before so you had already corrected for the town.
again, from your assessor's office, and I'm happy to do that, but there are nuances that we certainly would not know other than the assessor's office.
No, the assessor's office had them incorrect, but they were correct on your March 17 list.
So I'm gonna interject and stop for a second. So I understand what you said you're doing, and sounds like there needs to be further discussion on our responsibility and what's being done on our side. Anne Marie.
Anne Marie.
If I may, I had been thinking about that, because one of, it's important that this not repeat itself. So I think for the select board, one of the recommendations I thought was perhaps we take a look at the regional policy and maybe open that up for negotiations, maybe through that policy that we have, the regional agreement, not policy.
You cannot. That has to go through the legislature. So
It
you don't
has
have
to?
that, you do not have that ability as a
All
select
right, so
board to
then
do
it's
that.
probably a policy, yeah, bigger policy, and what our authority is. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's how you have to.
I think that has to be brought to, hi, Donnell Beals, School Committee Chair, Bourne Public Schools, and a citizen. Doesn't that have to be brought to town meeting? To vote there? Or, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a regional agreement, so I don't know that process then. I
Okay.
assumed like contractual, it's not a contract, I guess. So
Okay.
then we'd have to, that's a different type of,
If you're gonna speak, Brian, you're gonna come up to the mic.
yeah. If it was a contract, we could open up negotiations, right?
Okay.
But seeing that it's a legislative act,
My suspicion is that if all the parties are willing, we could come up with something short of reopening the entire regional agreement. And whether it's school committee, select board, Upper Cape Regional Tech, I'm pretty sure everyone could come up with some kind of policy or something that would share the lists as appropriate. Because it doesn't seem like there's a lack of willingness to do so. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
thank you.
And I just wanted to bring up, so the retroactive students, I know you guys are going to take a look at the last 4 or 5 years. In my opinion, I think we need to go back as far as where it was wrong. So I don't think it's 5 years. I think it could be 10 years. I think it could be 20 years. And as a school committee chair, I mean, I feel very strongly about that. And as a taxpayer, I feel very strongly about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne Marie?
Town council and the TA, you're confident that it's 215 students for fiscal year 27 as of October 1, 2025?
Yes.
Okay. So do we need a motion to accept that student enrollment for 10/1/2025 as 215? Based on town council and TA's analysis?
I don't think it's up to us to accept that. I mean, we are gonna get a budget and an assessment that we're gonna vote to approve or recommend. It's based on that 215 students, so. I think by approving the budget as adjusted, we are accepting the 215 students.
Think
All right, any more comments or questions? Okay. All right, thank you, everyone.
Hold on, if I may. So where are we leaving it at with the look back? So town council's going to, we're leaving it as town council's going to research statute to see how far back we can go, correct? Is that the assignment?
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like we have
Sorry.
decided the order of operation.
Yeah.
Sorry. My understanding is that we decided the order of operations is to understand the law first, and then once we understand that, we can decide whether or not we actually want to do the fact-finding, if you will, on what happened in prior years. So that gives me an initial homework assignment, as I understand it, and then whether we make another request or go through the data is a future thing to be determined.
After you have a handout.
MJ?
I definitely think we should look at the enrollment from October 1st of 2024.
Okay.
Because that is a current year that we were currently in. The books are not closed. And to me, that's a different situation than the years prior, where we've had audits, we've had certified free cash. We go through a process with the Department of Revenue. So going back beyond that is a different thing that we need researched. But I do think we should request from Upper Cape Tech the student addresses for October 1st, 2024.
By grade, per grade.
Right, what they did.
And
Yeah.
yeah. But we asked too for the calculation assessment, like, what was that?
Well, I think we need to look at the addresses first to determine if there's any that are incorrect, that need to be verified. So the process that happened this time is that someone went through the addresses and said, these aren't Bourne students. So if they provide, if the Upper Cape Tech provides the October 21st, 2024 enrollment that affects FY26,
Of addresses?
and says,
Per
these are the Bourne students, and these are the Wareham students, those get validated to determine whether those were correctly done. And then we can talk about whether, and there should be an adjustment for FY26.
So I see what you're saying. MJ's saying that we go back to the what we have open on the books, and then we take a look at the rest of it after we see what we can possibly deal with now. But what
Yeah.
if the statute, he found out that the statute says we can do them all at once? I mean, even if,
Well,
what
then
if it
we
doesn't
need to
matter,
get that
right?
answer, but I think we need to start working on 24 before we close the books on
Or is that-
24,
yeah.
right? Because that's July 10th is when those books close.
Yeah. I suspect it's going to be a more difficult question than just what the statute says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
just so we all
It's
understand.
never that easy.
I don't think the statute contemplates this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually do have a quick question.
Yeah.
The McKinney-Vento, is it the town paying as their last registered address?
Their last permanent stable housing, yes.
Okay, thank you. That was
All right, any more questions, comments about this? All right, thank you. So next is public hearing, proposed FY 2027 operating enterprise and capital budgets.
Do we have to make a motion to enter into the public hearing?
I'm sorry?
Do we have to make a motion to enter into public hearing?
No, the chair could just open the public hearing.
Okay, so opening public hearing for this budget hearing. So the first item is budget presentation by Upper Cape Tech.
So good evening. I'm Roger Forget, I'm the superintendent at Upper Cape Tech. And joining me this evening are two of our members from our school committee, Michael Deegan from the town of Sandwich, who will be assisting with the PowerPoint, and Tom Corvo from the town of Falmouth. So, our next slide, our budget subcommittee is made up of Michael Deegan from the town of Sandwich, Dominic Camarano from the town of Wareham, Robert Fitchemeyer, our chair from the town of Wareham, and Mary Ann Smith from the town of Falmouth. Community involvement. This is just a snapshot of some of what Upper Cape Tech does for our 5 sending towns in our way to give back for supporting Upper Cape Tech. We support our towns by some of the projects, things that we do for the town. In addition, what you see here, for the town of Bourne, for instance, the youth soccer fields are aligned by Upper Cape Tech. Our next slide. Cooperative employment. I'm happy to share with you that 55% of our juniors and seniors represent and are on co-op. This is the second year in a row that we have the highest percentile in the Commonwealth. It represents 244 students on co-op, earning a total of $1,492,118. It's averaging over $6,000 each. Enrollment, and you can see our enrollment has continued to increase. Net school spending is our next slide. I included this slide because some of what is being discussed is the requirement by the state of what each town should pay, their foundation budget. That is the minimum that is required by the town to fund their school system, in this case, Upper Cape Tech. Everything that is above that amount is all the way to the right, to the difference. As you can see, I have some of our towns represented here on how far over they are over foundation. Upper Cape Tech's $846,866 is divided by 5 towns. Next slide. This is our per pupil cost, and it's operating rather than the total assessment on the Department of Education. And I include this because Upper Cape Tech acts as a municipality. We have components that we're responsible for and are part of our budget that are not part of our local school system, i.e. OPEB, employee retirement. Those are all on the town side. Retirees health care on the town side. Snow removal, again, on the town side. Our next slide. Some of our budget drivers. So this year, contractual obligations, insurance increases, vocational supply costs, and an increase in student enrollment are just a few. Our FY27 preliminary budget. I have included percents. I don't know, Michael, can you do away with that, whatever it is on the right? To minimize that? So that, there you go, thank you. The percents on the, all the way to the right to show you the increases from year to year, from FY26 to FY27. As we go through, if you have questions, please just ask. Our next slide. School leadership, curriculum department leaders, and teaching services. Our teaching services has the largest increase, which is again steps and lanes for our Unit A teachers, as well as an additional math teacher, special ed teacher, and English teacher for next year.
How many new positions do you have?
3. Professional development, a slight increase. The largest increase is in instructional technology, and that's based on our incoming freshman class of what we anticipate to walk through the doors in September. So we've had to increase that. Again, our budget is a year behind, but I'm doing this in anticipation. Our next slide. Guidance, psychological services. Next slide, Michael. Our medical and health services are our 2 school nurses, along with the supply costs in that office. Our 2 school nurses are part of our teachers' Unit A contract, so they are included into having steps and lanes on their increases. Our next slide. Operations and maintenance, our custodial services, you'll see that. Heating and utilities, because we have been very forward in our thinking, having the solar array on campus, along with 3 years ago installing new boiler systems, which are highly efficient. I do not believe that I will need to increase that line item as we move into next year. My facilities director, Bill McCooch, would probably suggest that he'll keep it a little bit cooler, and we'll have to walk a little faster in the building to keep it warm. Our operations and maintenance. Again, all minor increases. We mentioned about insurance on the next slide. It was not about health insurance. We have moved from the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group a year ago to the Mayflower Group, and we are seeing the benefits of doing that. As you can see, just a slight increase in health insurance on that line item. But the building insurance has increased, and again, that is just costs that are passed on to us, and you'll see them represented here in our budget. School choice. Upper Cape Tech does not participate in school choice. That is DOR's way of running it through. If you had a student from Bourne going to Falmouth or from Wareham going to Sandwich, it comes into our budget and goes right back out. Our total foundation budget, as I mentioned earlier, $21,379,762. Our Chapter 70 aid is up $4,786,960. Our anticipated revenue, our anticipated municipal Medicaid, and E&D, that is excess and deficiency, equal to free cash that the school committee has put towards the budget to help offset those costs. Our subtotal is $5,226,960, which is an increase over last year. Our net foundation budget, $16,152,802. Transportation and LPNs. You'll see here the transportation provided by the district is slightly increased. Our contract transportation has not changed, and we have another year of that. Our total transportation has increased 1.37%. Our anticipated transportation aid, which comes right off of the cherry sheets, has increased considerably. So it leaves us a net transportation of $111,886, which is a decrease over last year, dramatically. Our total LPN program, the cost, $857,349. Our anticipated tuitions, $860,250, leaves us a net LPN of $2,901. Our combined net transportation and LPN, $108,985. Our capital. Our capital has increased slightly, $20,000 from $130 to $150. Again, our capital is divided by 5 towns. Our stabilization fund also slightly increased to $180,000, giving us a total capital of $330,000. The stabilization fund, which we have been funding for the last, I will say, almost 10 years now, is set to, as I've mentioned in the past, going into MSBA. We are now part of the feasibility study, and so we will be looking to hire an OPM, and then from the OPM put it out an RFP for a designer to begin to look at a new roof on the school, a new gymnasium, because we've outgrown. The school is built for 500 students, and we no longer can house all of the students in the gymnasium, and a small addition for new science lab areas. I say each year when I come to present that every good presentation, in my opinion, has a pie chart. So I wanted to include one here. You'll see that over 60% of every dollar that comes into Upper Cape Tech goes into instruction. Our total gross foundation budget, $21,379,762. The next slide has your preliminary assessments of all the towns. I'll bring to your attention, you have the minimum contribution, which is the first column. The second column says remainder of net foundation budget. You'll remember earlier I mentioned about foundation budget and how far over foundation the town and school systems, Upper Cape Tech in particular, are. This is what we are this year. We are under $500,000, $494,631. the total number of students, which is 215, divided into the total number of students in the school, gives you that percentile to the right. That is what is multiplied by that 494,631 to give you the remainder of the net to each town. In this case, to the town of Bourne, Upper Cape Tech is $121,123 over foundation. If you look at the next slide, that is your capital. Capital is based off of the total enrollment within the town. So it's not based on Upper Cape Tech. The percentage of the capital that the town of Bourne pays is based off of the total number of students within that town. Questions? We want to thank you for your support.
I'm sorry, I have just a question. Looking at the slides, what would you think is the main reason why the kids leave a normal school, a standard school, I guess?
So I can't speak to why they leave. I can share with you that students that come to Upper Cape want to avail themselves of a vocational education. I think there's a multitude of reasons for that. The cost of college itself, the fact that the salaries in all of our trade areas now are at a level in which you could actually live here, Cape Cod, and stay in town and have quite a living for yourself. Plumbers, electricians, HVAC. That would be why I would say.
Could you back up and explain the remainder of the net foundation budget? Explain what that really is and what the number of 121,000 means.
That is the amount of money over. So in the total assessment that you see to the left, $121,123 from that total assessment. Well, actually, not to the left, all the way down on the first very, very bottom of $4,322,089. If you look directly down, Mr. Sampson.
Oh,
Same
okay,
column
right.
all the way down.
The Bourne assessment.
Yes.
Okay.
So that 121,123 is how much over the state says this is the requirement. Bourne must pay this amount.
Bourne must pay $4,123,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And we are $121,000 over that.
Okay.
You'll notice the net school spending slide that I had previous had many of our towns in the millions. Falmouth is 15 million over foundation. Sandwich is 4.8. Wareham is 9.
Okay. And then on a prior slide where you had there was a slide where you showed revenue.
That would be the transportation.
Well, I'm looking at revenue and the total foundation budget.
Yes.
For fiscal '27, you're showing $80,000 in anticipated interest revenue.
Correct.
What fund do you have that's paying $80,000 in interest?
So any money that's coming in, our quarterlies that are coming in from the state pays monthly for their Chapter 70. That
Okay.
goes in, but that's not being paid out directly. So the interest that continues to builds on, and this is what we anticipate it to be. Not saying it will be, but that's what we're anticipating it to be.
So it's
Along
like,
with the
it's
county
interest on your
assessment.
working capital?
It's interest on the entire amount of funding that comes in. So your Chapter 78 comes in monthly, our towns pay quarterly that are going through, that all goes into the bank, it's sitting in the account. It is generating interest, and as you can imagine, on $21 million, it is generating a considerable amount of interest. We
Okay.
put that money right back against the budget.
Okay. If I may, Mr. Chairman, so I'm looking at the town budget. I don't think we have this in there.
I do not.
But I'm looking at what all of our other departments I mean, obviously, you're well aware of the fiscal issues in town and in probably all the towns we deal with.
Yeah.
But I know that we're working very, very hard to keep all of our departments in line in a reasonable amount. And our maximum, our figure for the year is 2.88%. Our school department is only up 1.97%, but your total budget is up 5.65%.
But again, that would be a misnomer, because if you look at your net school spending, you're almost $2.2 million over foundation, or what the state says you should be required to spend on your students within the town. So I applaud, and as a taxpayer here in Bourne, I'm happy that that's happening, because it's truly supporting the school system. But you are that far over.
From the Finance Committee,
Mhm.
we're looking at how do we explain to the public why Upper Cape is getting almost 6% when our town departments are only getting 2.88.
Well,
What's
I
your,
don't, go ahead.
what's the total operating budget for UCT?
To the
No, the total, your total, like total, the big number.
21 million?
No, the total. What's UCT's total operating budget? Do you know that?
21,379,000. No, this is
That's
21,379,000.
That's your gross operating budget?
Correct.
What's the increase from last year? Did I miss that?
It's right.
6.79%?
Correct.
And we're assessed how much? 5 point,
This is
5.65.
5.65.
So you're under what the total increase is.
I know, but
But we have a problem explaining to our residents
Mhm.
why Upper Cape Tech is getting almost, well, they are getting 5.65, but our town departments are only getting 2.88.
I can only explain that this is
Well,
what it
what's
costs.
going on up there that is contributing to that increased cost?
So you have your costs, again, on the teacher side of things, you have steps and lanes, which is unusual for most fields or most occupations, right? As a union carpenter, I had a percentage that I received every year. It was a strict percent, but it didn't give me years of experience along with years of education. That's a piece that plays right into it, and an extremely large piece. I have no control over building maintenance or building insurance. You saw the increase there when it's ranging, better than 10%. How do you offset that?
I would assume that our town costs are in that same percentage area.
Is the town self-insured on their buildings as well? Because they are for their health.
We are not self-insured for our property insurance.
Right.
Our property insurance is going up about 5%.
5%.
So what are you doing to help control costs for those? I know you can't, contractual obligations you have to meet, but for those costs where you can maybe control or maybe delay something for a year or cut something, can you help us understand what's being done there to help try and control?
So I do everything that I can within. As you look, and that's why I put the percentages on the side, so that you could see what the increases were and where they might be. If you have a 2% on maintenance of grounds, 2.17%, on your maintenance of your equipment is 1.64. Your custodial services is up 1.54%. Your maintenance of grounds is up 2.24%. Again, the medical and health service, yes, there's 7.47% that went up. Those are 2 school nurses with supplies in there, and they're part of the teacher Unit A contract. So those are contractual pieces that have already been approved with the school committee that I have to stay within.
Right, no, I'm not asking about contractual obligations, I know you have to meet those, and that's out of your control. But anything else, maybe if the school committee has had a discussion about, costs are rising for everybody, is there anywhere where maybe we can, cut back? I mean, without sacrificing what you're
Right.
providing the students, of course, but, just, we all have to look at those.
Well, I
if you
think
guys
that
are-
was part of their effort in putting $350,000 against the budget to offset the overall. But as you go through this, other than the insurance line item, which is 10, the teacher's line item, which has the increase, and then the instructional technology, because we are one-to-one, the rest of those increases are 3% or less. The teachers were at 9.89. So my school leadership, my principal and the instructional staff, the leadership that I have, they're at 3.72%.
So even with reducing by 20 students, we're still almost 6% over foundation,
Over last year.
over last year?
Over last year.
Yeah, I don't know, that confuses me. We're down 20 students, but we're up higher than last year. What's driving that? It's like insurance, yes, contractual obligations.
Your chapter 70 is not at the same rate as it was last year, so as you're looking at your chapter 78, it's up, but it's not up in step with everything else.
What's the total student population?
892, I believe, is what's on the slide.
And I see
And that's this school year, 25, 26? Or is that 24, 25?
No, that would be 25, 26.
And that's what's reported to Desi?
Correct.
Oh, MJ.
MJ?
So, in the FY '26 budget, the number of students that Upper Cape Tech reported, based on, that we still have to verify, was 200 students from Bourne. For the FY '27 budget, there are 215 students from Bourne. So you have an increase of 15 students that the assessment is based on. So you don't have fewer students, you have 15 more students attending Upper Cape Tech based on the revised enrollment. So your percentage increase, because your assessment is driven by your
Correct.
student population. If you have 15 more students, that is gonna drive the percentage up. I mean, I don't do math in my head,
you're
so I
absolutely
can't
correct.
tell you, but, so, if,
So operating budget's based on 215,
That's correct.
the calculations.
Yes,
I
that's
the
believe
correct.
assessment is based on 215.
We don't even know if the 200's right.
Well, but that's not the question. If you have an assessment based on 200 students, and then you have an assessment based on
200.
215, your assessment, part of that percentage increase is gonna be the increase in the number of students. And what we haven't talked about is, I think there were 59 students from Bourne in the the final freshman class, right? And sometimes it varies. You have to look at the outgoing class and the incoming class.
Correct.
But the freshman class, I think it was like 59 this year in the revised numbers. I'd have to go back and see. We already have 94 students who have accepted for next year. So what we're not, the enrollment numbers are interesting. I mean, it's an interesting question. So the regional budget is a really difficult budget because there are so many different pieces that go into it that have budget drivers, that are bigger budget drivers than looking just at a department. So our department budgets don't have electricity in them. They don't have health insurance in them. They don't have it.
Right,
So,
there are
you
none of
know,
the
so-
overhead costs
so
that are
they-
included
It's
in
difficult to like have an apples to apples. I still don't understand the school choice because you don't have school choice.
Correct. We don't participate.
So is that, I mean, how do you have school choice? How do you have school choice? Because that's a 58% increase. It's only
Yeah,
71,000. You know,
71,000.
And again, that's purely on the enrollment numbers, but that's DOR. They're the ones that actually put that in because they're using this as a mechanism for how do you fund a Chapter 74 student from a town to another town. And so it comes in and goes right back out, and it's not part of our actual budget.
Yeah, I don't understand that, but.
I don't either.
But, I mean,
Doesn't make
it's,
sense.
it's really difficult, and the problem which you have when you have a regional 5 towns, when you have 5 towns, you have all of the, you have to get agreement on all the 5 towns. We really, you
Just
know.
a quick school choice answer. So it's as if a student who lives in Bourne,
Yeah,
Bourne resident, is going to Falmouth and part of their child care program, which is a Chapter 74 program. So they school choice to Falmouth, so you send the 5,000 over for the regular school choice, but it flows through UCT for the extra money for the Chapter 74 program. Same student. The money flows in 2 different
what's a Chapter
directions.
74 program?
Everything
Vocational programs.
vocational.
The academic side of all of it is Chapter 71 program. Chapter 74 is purely vocational program.
They get additional monies from the state for Chapter 74, so the state sends it to UCT to send to Falmouth for the Bourne student who's in that program.
So the cost per student is increased.
So next year, we'll have a Chapter 74 at Bourne, so it might happen in the reverse as well.
Okay.
It's a flow-through mechanism, so that's the only way. Hope that
Okay.
made some sense.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments on Upper Cape Tech budget? All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Dickey.
Okay, next, Bourne Public Schools budget.
Thank you, good evening. So we'll give Mrs. Borning a moment to pull it up on Canva for you. I do apologize, do you all have a handout? The purple ones? It looks like our printer went really wonky when it gets to slide 2019, so there's a few things that are missing from those, but they are in the Canva, and we'll be happy to send you the whole digital file. It just didn't seem to print everything. We'll wait until that's up and running, and then we'll get started. So I'd like to thank you for inviting us here, as usual. We always appreciate the opportunity to talk about our great schools. I'll be joined by my colleague, Mr. Geist, in a little bit when we get to the pie charts and the numbers. And I'd like to also thank some of our school committee members who are here, and also Ms. Boarding, the assistant superintendent. So I can talk off the beginning of the slides. A lot of this presentation is what was presented at our budget hearing, and then we've added some other slides for you as well. So I'll start right from the beginning. Our budget is built in a zero-based way. We look at what our needs are in the school district, and we start with our assumptions and our revenue, so that's what you'll see first. Our budget development process starts as early as late September, or it really starts kicking off in October, and we're looking at everything from our anticipated needs. We straddle almost 3 different fiscal years if you think about it. That's why it's really hard to get an accurate picture of where we'll end up. But basically we have grant funds, whether they're entitlement grants or ones that are 2 years behind that we're able to still use. We have the year we're currently working in, and then we have what we're anticipating. So we use multiple stakeholders. We try to work with town administration to kind of see where we're going to land. So you'll see in the next slide our timelines, which you're all very aware of. Go to the next one. That's usually for the general public, so they know that it's not over until it's voted on town meeting floor, and it's a very long process with a lot of input. So the next slide. So these are our revenue assumptions. You've probably seen this slide before. I put a few little asterisks as the changes from when we presented it originally. So our assumptions are similar to town budgeting, that we're going to be similar to the year before, that our school choice and our tuition programs will be the same. Local, state, and federal grants are at the FY26 level, although more recently we've heard that we should be taking caution with the entitlement grants. So those are the federal grants, Title I, 2A, 3, 4, and be expecting to not have them fully funded. They're telling us to, at least be cautious and save about 15%. So that was about a few weeks ago that came in. Circuit breaker, as you've hopefully heard about, is a year reimbursement behind. These are, and you'll be hearing a lot about our pressures, our budget pressures, and you'll be able to see that specialized instruction, especially for students who we can't service in our schools, we call that out-of-district tuition, OOD, the costs have been spiraling upwards at a very alarming rate. The need is higher and the costs are higher. So here, our circuit breaker account gives us a reimbursement. There's a threshold. I stop here because it's a tricky one. So let's say we have student A, and that student cost us more than $55,000 to educate. It could be anywhere from $55,000 to $800,000. That's our range of students who are out of district. And once it gets past that threshold, then the state will kick in additional funds, usually to the tune of about 65% of that. So there's still something that we have to pay above that. So we're expecting circuit breaker to come in at similar levels. We're advocating, we were actually at the State House today, as Day on the Hill, to really talk to our legislative body about lowering the threshold and increasing the amount of reimbursement. But it's always a year behind, so that's important to know. Originally, we were projecting town revenue to support a 3.7 increase. When we spoke earlier, that's kind of where we were looking with all of our costs and our revenue assumptions. As you know, we went back to the drawing board and we brought that down to 1.97. We can talk a little more about that later, but this budget currently represents a 1.97 increase. And then the last revenue assumption is Chapter 70 and Student Opportunity Act, SOA, at least the governor's budget. So moving on to the next one, our planning assumptions. So we obviously want to maintain really high quality programs for all of our students. We have excellent schools. The commissioner came to visit a couple of months ago and was just floored by the very high quality that we have. So we want to maintain that. We want to meet the needs of all learners, and if any of you have children or grandchildren or have seen, since the pandemic, a lot has changed, whether it's through learning, whether it's through social emotional regulation. Kids just really need a lot. So we've grown with that, and we've been able to keep a program in that meets the needs of all learners. And I always capitalize it because all means all. If they're a resident of Bourne, then we're meeting their needs. Class sizes for expected enrollment, and I will get into that a little later on with a big study that we did with housing trends, but also the enrollment that is already at our doorstep. Literally this summer, more children came than we expected. We were already in a place where our class sizes were too high, so we're planning for that next year. Inclusive and equitable practices, so even though we do have students that are going out of district, we do all that we can to keep them in district because we believe philosophically that here in our schools is the best place to educate students with their peers. And then lastly, you'll see a little bit of this in the presentation. We have a brand new strategic plan that includes a Move One Up grade level plan and all of our school improvement plans. So that's what all those acronyms mean. So you'll see that in the next slide. If you haven't heard, we spent over a year with our strategic planning process. We had two members sitting in front of you here. Anne-Marie and Peter came and met 3 hours every month for 6 or 7 months. And we really came together on not only our mission, our vision, and core values, but 4 really important strategic areas of focus. The one that we'll be focusing on today was some of the things we did early on, which is the finance and facilities. So there's a whole 20-page plan behind this, but you're going to kind of see the fruits of that labor. So if you go to the next slide, what we did, if you haven't heard, one of the very first things out of the gate was to do a NESDEC, New England School Development Council, best use for our facilities plan. It was a 51-page report. There's a hyperlink in here later, which if you haven't seen it yet, good reading. But what they basically told us is that based on the housing trends, they worked with the town planner and looking at all of the housing trends, we are seeing already grade levels increase in the lower grades. We had a dip during the pandemic. I mean, the whole state of Massachusetts had a dip, but we're starting to increase, so we needed to be prepared for that. With that increase, we were particularly seeing it at Bournedale, and if we didn't do something about it, we would be completely out of space. We would have kindergarten classrooms on the stage or in the art room, and that wasn't the type of facility that we wanted for our kiddos. So instead, we went through a large planning process with our community, and we had this move one grade up process. So what you'll see going into next year is Bournedale will be a pre-K through 1 school, and Bourne Intermediate will be 2 through 4, as you can see on the slide. BMS will be 5 through 7, and then our high school will be 8 through 12. And there's a lot of really great benefits that you'll see coming out of that, but it was our, through community support, best effort at using all of our facilities instead of putting on an addition to Bournedale, and really making sure that students are able to have the best possible environment. So there's a lot of things on these slides. I'm going to, again, send you the digital copy. This was fully presented at our budget hearing, but we have all of these really amazing things happening at each of our schools. Very, very rigorous, very, top class instruction for our kiddos. So you can see there, Bourne Intermediate School. We are gonna breeze through these for the sake of time. Bourne Middle School, and then Bourne High School. So all of these pieces come together to make really phenomenal instruction. I'll pause at Bourne High School just for a minute because there has been a lot of discussion in the community about 8th grade at the high school. It's going to benefit in a lot of different ways. One is that those 8th graders will have their own separate wing, and they'll have their own separate schedule, and they will have their own separate classes. So they'll still get a full 8th grade feel, but they'll have opportunities for all of our pathways to start early. So again, if you haven't seen Bourne High School in the past 5 years, you really haven't seen Bourne High School. But we have several innovation career pathways that are already, the state has already recognized. So we have business and entrepreneurship. Many of you probably have interns as well. We have life and environmental sciences, health sciences. We have a new one coming online, which is advanced manufacturing and engineering. I know I'm missing one of our ICPs. Oh, cybersecurity and computer science. And then also we're building a Chapter 74 program, as I just mentioned, in digital and graphic communication. So it can't be in competition with anything that's offered at UCT. So this is one they don't offer, and our students are really excited about it. So that will give our students the opportunity to be within a career cluster, move through all of these really challenging courses that are college-like, and let them end up in their senior year going to an internship, which we're the only school in the Commonwealth that offers that to every senior. So it's really exciting. And then additionally, we're in year 2 of our early college program with Mass Maritime. We had 2 cadets go through, not official cadets because they were still seniors, and they were able to have that experience as a pilot. So I wanted to pause there just to say all the really great things happening at Bourne High School. So moving right along, in this budget, back to numbers, we have 7 teaching positions, so not our ESPs or our administrative assistants or our custodians. These are teaching specific that are part of this particular budget. Now I wanted to note, again, they're all enrollment based, and I'll be super clear, they're enrollment for Bourne residents that are already here. There was questions that were, they're out there, is it because you're trying to get more school choice kids in? No, we welcome and embrace school choice, but these students are already here. Integrated pre-K is a 1 teacher to 15 student ratio, where 7 of those students are typically developing peers, and the other, 7 are special ed and 8 are typically developing peers. So it's essentially a special ed program. We currently have 3-year-olds in the pipeline with IEPs where we have to open another class. So this falls into the line of, like, by law, we must have this class. Some of these are enrollment based, but some are also with the IEPs. Kindergarten, grade 1, 2, and 3, they are already at their maximum for where we are with our collective bargaining, for our target, for what we feel is, the right class size for students. So we're moving to what we call a 7 track. There's currently 6 homerooms. We're moving to 7. And then at the high school, we have 2 special education programs, again, that have gotten too big for the ratios that need to be there. So we must hire 2 additional special ed teachers. One really important point, I put some bullets on this because I wanted everyone to realize that even though this feels like we're adding 7 positions. It's not a complete one-to-one add. We've done budget reallocations within the budget. For example, we reduced 3 ESPs in kindergarten because now we're having additional classes and the class sizes are going lower because we used to have 1 ESP per classroom. So there's reductions in other places. And then over the years, we analyzed over the past 5 years how much we reduced, because last year was a big reduction year. Over the course of the past 5 years, we've actually reduced by about 8 positions. So these are coming back due to enrollment and due to student needs. It feels like it's a lot at once, but actually it's just kind of a re-leveling. And thanks, Christy. No, that's okay. No, I just wanted to also say one last thing that's not on the slide is that prior to even our first round, where we were at the 3.7, we reduced 5 positions that were deemed needed by the principals. That was everything from adjustment counselors to reading specialists so we had already reduced. I don't want folks to walk away thinking that the last round was our only reduction. So going into the next few slides, we'll breeze through. Again, I'll take questions on anything. These are all of the great pieces in teaching and learning. We put this up there because people need to realize that it's not like the back in the day when you could buy a set of textbooks that would last you for 5 to 10 years. Almost everything has gone online. You can't even purchase textbooks anymore in a lot of these. So these are our digital curriculum resources, and Chromebooks need to be repaired. There's a lot of escalating costs where there simply isn't other ways to have school anymore. It's just the way in which that schools need to operate. We do, as part of our more recent reductions, we deferred replenishing actual tangible books for our younger kiddos that have been ripped. We're going to tape them. We're going to try to push them through for another year, but that was one of the costs that we were able to, in our last round of cuts, that we were able to do. So here's some more with our curriculum resources and professional learning. Again, we could talk about these things for hours, but we're not going to. And then lastly, for meeting the needs of all learners, it's really important for people to understand, especially taxpayers who don't have the younger children or any children, social emotional learning and counseling is so essential. There is a mental health crisis right now for all students across the entire nation, and we really need to make sure that we have the right staff that are able to help and the right curriculum. So that's a piece of this here. And then, as I also said, the special education and student services. All right, so we also have a technology budget, as you know. This is a picture of, everyone looks happy because it was the professional development day, all the teachers right out the gate, but we have some really great folks who are on our committees. And these are all of the really important things that are needed, everything from cybersecurity to communication with parents, Chromebooks, third-party support vendors. There's so many, you could call them hidden costs. They're not glamorous or glorious, but they are absolutely needed, and so that budget supports all of that. All right, so I do know in prior conversations, folks were asking about enrollment, so I put up our October 1st enrollment. I know that at least the select board has seen October 1st and February 1st and all of these different pieces, but I wanted you to see the grades in which they lie. So again, if you look at our younger grades, grade 2 specifically, there's 130 students. You divide it by 18 and you get over 7 classrooms, right? Because we're trying to hit a 1 to 18. So we know we won't hit the mark exactly on 18, but we certainly try our best effort. You can also see the students that are out of district, and then you can see it by grade. Now, one thing I will say is all of these things are on the DESE school profiles, but in any snapshot in time, you might see different numbers. So again, if you ever have a question, if you're looking on a website and you're like, this doesn't match up with the slide, Dr. Joe, please just give me a call and I'll explain it. Some of them only count pre-K students who are not paying tuition, as in our special ed students. Some count all of them, and so there's always a little bit of a difference there. All right, so we did some local district comparisons. I completely understand all of your point of view, where you're coming from. I'm also a taxpayer in my town. I know these are very difficult fiscal times. We're at the State House today, and we're hearing from legislators just how bad it is. But when I tell you that this 200 line item budget is not only in line with the needs of our students, but also really in line with, locally where everyone is, I wanted to show you that. So this is enrollment. People talk a lot about enrollment. You hear about Chapter 70 funding and how, it's a hold harmless district or it's a minimum aid district. Inflation is much higher than what Chapter 70 is able to keep up with, especially if your enrollment's declining. It's this formula that's really difficult. We're advocating at the state level, but until there's a Chapter 70 formula revision, we're kind of stuck where we are. So I did want to show you, Bourne is not different than the other communities. We're actually on the lower end of the decline percentage, so I wanted to show you that on the slides. So in essence, we're losing less students than other districts, if that makes sense. And if you noticed on the last one, Wareham was the lowest loss over time because they've had major housing developments. If any of you drive down Route 6, you know this. I speak with my colleagues, you know this. Their enrollment's starting to go up again. So as part of our study, there's a QR code, but also a hyperlink. This is what we saw. Again, this was an outside agency who took a look at all this. As of this summer, approved projects under construction, it was going to be a net gain of 25 to 31 students in those different grade levels. And what we saw is just over the summer, we enrolled already like more than they had projected. So that one housing development going in, there was a lot of kiddos, which we love. It was great. And that kind of put us into this little bit of a tailspin with some of the younger grades being a little too high. But if you go all the way to the combined potential impact, so essentially this is 50 pages distilled down to one slide, but do feel free to read it. Over the course of the next several years, which they said was 3 to 5 years is about as far as they could project, we could have an overall projection of 137 to 176 students. So we could bounce right back up to the enrollment that we were at before. Again, time will tell, permits, process, we don't know. But if that little snippet of the 2 that went online this summer is showing us anything, this was designed with looking at the 3-bedroom housing, and we saw even 1 and 2 bedroom housing having children in them. So, you know, it was already, people were very excited to move to Bourne. So we'll put that there just as a case in point. And then before I welcome up Mr. Geis to really talk numbers, and then I'll come back for questions, I really wanted to make sure that folks understood our pressure points or our major drivers. So out-of-district special education cost is a major driver. Across the Commonwealth, so this is a snapshot from this year, all of the towns and districts have seen a 29% increase since 2021. So basically since the pandemic when students came back. Students are more needy and all of the costs have increased. In 1 year, every place went up by 14%. Tuition's just skyrocketed. We in Bourne, we analyzed our data, we went up by 42% in that same time period. Again, it's where the children are placed, it's the number of children coming in. Sometimes we'll get someone moving into Bourne in the middle of the year and we have to assume those costs immediately. So as you'll hopefully see, there's a town warrant meeting article that we advocated for, because a safety net would be that special ed reserve fund that if students are able, coming into the district, we have that as well. Full disclosure, one of the places we went for our cuts to find the money that was needed to get us in a solid fiscal place as a town is that we're taking a little more risk knowing what we think the tuitions will be and then what is in our budget. So in knowing that risk, meaning there are students in IEP processes right now, there are placement discussions that haven't been locked in, but we're assuming they're probably going to be in one of these tuition places. And we won't see that come back to us in circuit breaker for a year. So that's the kind of risk that I'm talking about. Having the stabilization account being fully funded to a level that would mitigate that risk would make us all breathe a lot easier. The second thing, which we've already talked about, is enrollment trends in the lower grades. So as I said, you'll see a 7th homeroom. One of the other, I'll call it second round cuts that we made, was that we're not funding a 5th grade 7th track. We're right on the cusp. We're hoping we don't get a large group of kiddos moving in, say from the base or some amount. That's always our, our wild card, the base kiddos. And so hopefully we'll be okay. But if it comes to pass in the summer that we need another 5th grade, we're going to have to find a way to fund that, and that will be a really difficult thing. That was one of the cuts we made. And then the last one, personnel and operational costs, like every school district, you heard my colleague talk about it, steps and lanes. Even though it's a 2% COLA, you're really looking at about a 3% increase to all those total costs because people move down steps in experience and over lanes when they get more education. And so we see that change. We have contractual salary obligations and all of the annual increases. So it's definitely something that is not normal in most budgets, even in all unions, but we have to anticipate for that. So I'd like to welcome Jordan up to talk about some of the details, and then also, again, in the hyperlinked part, you'll have the full budget as well.
Can we ask you a couple questions first?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. So we have a total number of students of 1497. As I'm flipping the pages, I see different things here. And your budget was, for this year, was it 28 million?
Yes.
Rounded off, 28 million? Now, that's just the operating cost. That does not include the hard costs that the town is picking up in addition to, such as
Correct.
medical and everything else, right?
There are definitely pieces that the town has in shared costs, and also the 28 doesn't include some of our, what we call offsets. So we have circuit breaker, military mitigation, school choice. So there's several other pieces that come on to help fund what the actual experience is for students.
Okay, so if you have an operating cost of 28 million, what's the number for the other costs, the hard costs, that are not calculated in here?
So I could only tell you what's in our offsets as well, but then I do believe that the town administrator has the other pieces for the shared costs. We don't see that until it's all said and done.
Would you have a total number for that?
So we talked about it at your previous meeting, and it's roughly $41 million, once you put in the shared costs.
So we're talking.
Shared cost is about 8, correct?
I think it was about, no, it was, let me pull it up, it was more than 8.
So, I mean, we could
yeah.
really be talking about a total budget of 69 million?
No,
You said
41?
41?
No,
41, the
41.
total.
Oh, the total is 41.
Including shared
Okay.
costs. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then what we'll have, if we can continue the presentation, we do have local district comparisons as well when you break it out to per pupil, which is a fully loaded per pupil as well, because it looks at the end result of the report that goes to the Department of Ed, which includes all of the town shared costs as well.
So what is the total loaded per pupil cost?
Well, that's a little bit more in the presentation. If you could hold that question till.
Sure.
And, yeah, if you wouldn't mind, maybe letting Jordan continue and finish the presentation, and then I'll come right back for questions, I promise. Okay, great. Thanks, Mike.
Would it be easier if you sit down, because we can bring the
No,
microphone?
I'm fine. It's good.
You can take the microphone and sit.
As my doctor tells me, Jordan, you can't cure stupid. If you're gonna pick up weights, your back's gonna hurt, so that's where I'm at. We all make choices, right?
Yep.
So our operating budget, which is what we're discussing right now, is $28,265,695. We're gonna have our little beautiful pie chart there. The vast majority of that obviously is salaries at just over 16.5, student services coming in at 7.2, operations at 1.8, and transportation at 1.5. Any questions about any of those?
What page number are you on, sir?
I'm on 22.
It's 11.
Or 11, sorry.
The slide is it's 11, but
Page
the
11.
slide is 22.
Slide 22, page 11.
Okay.
Sorry, I have a quick question for the transportation. So I believe students have to pay for their part of their buses. Is this, no, they don't?
No. We used to have fees, but we do not.
Used to have
You
fees.
don't have
High
fees
school.
anymore?
Ooh.
Oh, then never mind. I don't have a question. Never mind.
The only students who have to pay for transportation, and only if there's room, are school choice students.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, moving on. The offsets, these are outside the operating budget. Come in at a little over 5.2 million. Circuit breaker that Dr. Joe was talking about earlier is at 2.1 next year. School choice at 963,000, military mitigation at 1.1. There's some other federal and state grants at just under 750,000,
and some revolving funds at just under $180,000. Any questions, any of those?
Yes, I do.
So the chief.
Go ahead.
So the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
You go
Okay.
first, you
I
go
already asked
first,
the
and then
question.
I'll ask my turn.
So for the military mitigation, I noticed that's listed separate than federal and state. Is that a guarantee based on student number, or how does that work?
That's a great question. It's written into the state budget, so it's basically an earmark
Okay.
that comes in. I could not even begin to tell you the nuances of the formula that they use to get to that number. So I said it's a great question. It seems to be about the same amount every year, give or take 30,000.
Okay.
But it's not guaranteed.
It's not
Typically,
guaranteed?
Could change.
Okay.
typically,
Oh.
we're coming in about $830,000, which then begs the question, how can you put that much in to next year's? And yeah, it's a concern, but you can't be comfortable. As the budgeter for the district, I've attempted to get to a place where I was only budgeting for what I knew we had, which would have been last year's, and not straddling where I think we're gonna end up, hopefully having some reserve, anticipating, but obviously in this new budget climate that we're in, we don't have that luxury.
Right.
And that's true for all of those revolvings. I'm tracking where I hope we're gonna be and have a carryover and anticipating what we're gonna get. It's not a comfortable place to be in, but we've been there for, a while, and I was trying to get out of that, and clearly that's not an option. So we're gonna continue to do that work.
Do you know how many students are coming from Otis?
I should, because I've
The audit.
just been audited 2 years in a row on that. And there's so many numbers in my head, I wouldn't even fathom a guess right now. It's ever since COVID, it's been significantly less. They stopped moving, they being the military, government stopped moving people for a while. I think we're seeing a little bit of an increase.
Yeah. Several moved in January. And then additionally, there's several types of military involved students, so that's why the number is different. So there's strictly living on the base, and then there's also, military involved, and then living off this. So there's a full report that we could probably rustle up for you, yeah.
So we still get money even if they're not living on base potentially?
That formula is, like I
That's fine,
said,
that's fine,
challenging,
that's fine.
but, so there's military connected students that also plays a much smaller role in how that money's allocated. And the federal money that goes directly to the town that the schools don't get is where that formula really comes into play. It's a voluminous application. It takes quite a while to do. For the state, it's a one-page application, so it's a little bit different. They just sort of look at what the federal government has done and do their magic.
Okay, thank you.
I
Sorry,
should
I'm
have a
sorry.
better understanding of it by now, but I just
That's okay.
Well, how the military mitigation money is received did go through a change, and it's probably 10 years, I have no idea when it was. It was, prior to the change, it wasn't part of the state budgeting process, and it was much more susceptible to 9C cuts or other things, which did happen one year, and we had difficulties. It's really been pretty well followed in the state budget. It is a state budget line item now. Our state legislators are very careful about tracking it and making sure that line item does get funded. So we are a little bit more, it can go up a little,
Secure.
vary. But I think even for the school choice number that you have in there, that's a higher number than what's showing on the cherry sheet right now.
Yep.
So all these numbers are in the state budget. They're estimates, just like we're estimating what our state revenues are gonna be. So they are, so that was a thing I noticed, that school choice number that you have here is higher than what's on the governor's cherry sheet, so we have to, this is why we try to be conservative about what
So
happens.
I'm anticipating school choice at a lower number than that, just to be clear. I anticipate conservatively, because that's my job, and I also have to track where I think we're gonna end up and how much is in that revolving fund at the end of this year. So that's combining the target I'm trying to hit to carry over, plus what I'm anticipating getting next year based off the cherry sheets.
What's important about this number, though, this $5 million number, this is added to the money that's in the budget on sources and uses, because this is all money that goes directly to the schools and doesn't come through sources and uses. So that's why you have a 28 million, plus you have this 5 million, plus you have the shared cost. So there are a number of factors that determine what it's actually costing us for schools. My question had to do with school choice, but it's all, these are estimates right now.
Mhm.
They're estimates of revenue estimates. Thank you.
That's just our annual budget increase over the past 5 years running. FY '27 is at a 1.97 for the operating budget.
Not the total budget.
Correct.
And on page 24, you're showing a per pupil cost. Is that just the operating budget? Not,
So this is per pupil expenditures.
Right.
This is right off of any of the school profiles. You can go and look this up, which doesn't take into account some things, but you're comparing apples to apples is why I put it up here.
okay, but that figure does not include the hard costs that the town is picking up.
It does.
No, it does.
It does, and
Okay.
there's shared costs.
Shared
Yeah,
costs.
shared
Shared
costs.
costs.
Yes, we're very
Shared.
We're in
careful
community.
to share things.
And that's what I was referencing, that now it's apples to apples, because everything goes into a report at this point with all the costs fully loaded, and that's what you're seeing here for our local communities that are near us. And so whatever, we grab the most up-to-date data, and that's what you're able to see there.
Can I ask a question about that, though? When those numbers get put into the formula that DESI uses to determine per pupil cost, is it done by actual costs from the town?
Yes.
Or is it done by things that they plug in? I mean, because
Actual.
maybe I'm thinking foundation.
Comes out
where
of my
they
end
have
of
a
the year
number
report.
where they think you should be spending this much
No,
on health insurance,
it's
but it
actual.
has nothing to do with what actually health insurance costs.
So
So
it's labor intensive.
Yeah.
Jordan
No.
locks himself in a room for 2
Okay.
weeks and.
it's actual. Okay,
The-
great.
And that year-end report is, Erica signs that, so
Okay.
it matches our side too.
That would be an interesting report to look at.
We can give
Yeah.
that to you.
Yeah.
And, Mr. Chair, while we're on this slide, Wayne, so the $41 million is the operating budget. We have a line for retired teachers' health insurance, which is $1,877,000. We have debt service of $2,458,000. And then we have shared costs, which includes liability insurance, employee benefits, maintenance, and public utilities at $8,545,000. So that's how you get up to the 41 mil.
Does that include, I'm sorry, pensions for retired school department employees?
Retired teachers' health insurance, it does not include pension. It does not include retirement.
Thanks.
It's health insurance, but not retirement.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Does it include cherry sheet, school choice
It does not.
sending and school charter school tuition. So that's a whole nother piece on the cherry sheet. There's school choice, costs of like 1,554,000. Charter school sending tuitions is 2,430,795. It's a very all these numbers are really hard to compare because, and that was really one of the reasons that we went to the school committee and asked them, because the cherry sheet increases for school-related costs were, well, less revenue and more expenses was a $600,000 difference. That was create really
350.
deficit. Yeah, what?
350.
reduced.
The deficit was around 350.
Yeah, well, for school choice sending and charter sending, but then if you added the retired teachers and then the lower revenues, it's a very complex thing, so yeah.
So when you take your cost of 41 million, we still have to, I mean, if we want to know the real cost of running the schools, if you add in the retirement to health insurance, it goes up several million more.
Well, this includes health insurance, but not retirement and not offsets.
Right.
Yeah. And the offsets are 5 million.
Yeah,
so.
okay. Yeah.
So the next slide we prepared is, again, up to the minute for other local school districts. So this was compiled at a meeting recently. Again, whatever was available I put on the slide for you. These are the percentage increases that local towns are seeing. And so, as you see, we're on the bottom end of this, and even at 3.7, we would have been squarely, in the path of the lower percentages. We try really hard to be fiscally responsible. So I just wanted to show you that Bourne is not an outlier, and we're doing our very best to keep those costs low. And then the last one is this large spreadsheet, 250-something line items. Shows you actual spending. It shows you, cost over time. And again, you'll see, for those of you who like spreadsheets and like looking deeply, you'll see where those budget pressures are and where those increases have been over time. You'll also see where we put our offsets as well. So the hyperlink to the full spreadsheet. So lastly, this is our recommended operating budget, $28,265,695. It represents a 1.97 increase. You can see what the increase actually is over our FY26 approved budget. And our last slide, I believe, is just any more questions that you might have in the next steps.
Yeah.
So you're adding staff because you have an increase, but if you look at the enrollment from the local district comparison, slide 19, we're actually still down. So last year it was 1,519 students, and this year, the 25-26, it's 1,473 students.
Correct. But what we're seeing for next year is that anticipated enrollment
That's
climb.
from this, the
Yes,
next.
and it's
okay.
also who's currently sitting in our classes in the certain grade levels. Because as those students get older, we can have larger class sizes. But we're seeing an enrollment increase in the lower grades.
But that anticipation you're saying is from this?
Absolutely.
forecast. Okay. I
Yes,
got
we
it.
saw it happen over the summer, and
Yep.
we weren't able to put in another classroom last minute, but we're already seeing really large class sizes for the littles. And then, like I said, of those 7, 3 of them are special ed related, which are really specific to age range. You can't have more than a 48-month spread in the same classroom. So we just can't configure those classes that way.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Was the major increase this year from out-of-town people coming in, or just increases within existing residents of the town?
I don't have information on that.
Because you mentioned a new complex coming in with a lot of families.
We did see an increase over the summer. I believe it was Cape View Way and Canal View. The 2 new ones, and there are more families than we anticipated, and they all kind of came in at once. But like I said, we service the children of Joint Base Cape Cod, and in January we had several families moving in. So the October 1st numbers aren't the February 1st numbers, which are already higher than what you're seeing on October 1st. I could probably pull it up quickly and find the actual number, but we grow over time. Every year we kind of do that, so.
So it's hard for you to do a 5-year projection based on age of the youths living in the town.
Right. Giant Base Cape Cod really is a different, scenario to know which students are coming in and which ages. But what we did is this report through NESDEC that's showing us, that was that slide with the little arrows, that over time we will get more younger students, and so they'll start matriculating up. And they're mostly in that, pre-K to 5 range. So just to kind of close the loop on this, as I said, for the past 3 years, we've been right-sizing, we've been reducing staff because we knew the students in front of us. So last year we reduced quite significantly at the middle school. The year before we reduced at the high school, but now we're at the point that they're starting to roll up, as you see in 3rd grade again, and we expect that roll up to continue. Because we keep approximately the same size cohorts.
I noticed that on your year-by-year projections, that the special education students was actually about even across each grade. Has that been consistently what it's been for the town over a pattern of years?
The total number?
The number of special education students per grade.
Oh, the out of district? We're seeing the column of out of district?
Yeah.
Just a point of clarification, there's far more special ed students than are shown on that slide. Those are the only out-of-district
Tuition
students.
somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
So that we're paying a tuition for them that is, anywhere from, like I said, over 55,000 to 800,000.
Right.
And there's, several that are in the larger category where it's quite costly. So it's not an apples to apples when you say per student, because some students have more needs and therefore they cost a lot more.
Okay.
But yeah, I would say it is pretty normal to see that across different grade levels. What we're seeing again after the pandemic is more needs are emerging at a younger age. So we're seeing younger children need to go out of district to really get the specialized care that they need.
So, since the pandemic, have we seen the number of special education students increase?
Yes, unequivocally.
Everyone has.
Yeah.
Everyone has.
Yeah.
Okay.
My question, through
Go
the
ahead.
chair. I just wanted to phrase it right. School choice. How many students do we have? School choice in?
Approximately 118, give or take the day. And they do a recording 3 times a year.
Yeah.
So, if they're here at October 1st, and they stay to the end, we get a full tuition for them.
Yeah.
The other piece to remember about school choice is if there are special education needs, those students will be paid more from the other town. And the same in reverse if Bourne students are somewhere else. So it's not a per pupil $5,000, it's a formula.
Well, that was my next question. You're getting roughly 5,000 from the sending town when you take a student in, but it's costing 25,000, we'll say, to educate per pupil expenditure. It's almost 25,000. So where is that different? Where's the delta? Where's that differential coming from?
No, that's a great question that people ask all the time. We only take school choice when we would never open a classroom for school choice. It's just to fill seats to, again, get some additional revenue to come in to pay for a teacher or pay for other things. We would never just open enrollment just for school choice because it's not something that would be economically feasible.
But picking up on what Peter just said, if we're only getting 5,000, and you're saying that helps offset the cost, but the cost is really 25,000, aren't we losing 20,000 a person?
You could look at it that way, but again, this is all students equalized over. The student that's costing, I don't know what the low end would be, but upwards of 800,000. There's a whole broad range. When you put it all together, that's the cost.
Okay.
But every school district that we showed you has the same comparables. It's
Right.
happening across all of the school districts. Do I think that it costs 24,000 to educate a child in Bourne? No. But when you add all those different expenses in for the other tuitions, that's why you get that increased cost. Do I think the state should give us more in school choice than 5,000? Yes, I do. Which is why the in-between part is that if a student has specialized services, has an IEP that calls for more, that we're getting more, so we're able to educate that child.
And then just to follow up, once we take that student in, we have them to the duration of the 12th grade.
That's the way the law reads, yes. We have to take them in a blind lottery, so we can't pick and choose.
Yeah.
If we have seats, and so we open up only so many seats based on the amount that we have, so we don't overflow our classes. They're just, it's usually like 1 or 2 or 3 per grade level, depending on the grade. And then they're with us until they choose to go somewhere else or stay with us.
MJ?
It appears to me that we have more school choice students in our middle school grades than we do in our lower school grades. So is our trend to take fewer school choice? I mean, have we been taking fewer school choice students?
We've been taking fewer in the younger grades because of the class size creep problem. We were concerned about class sizes. So if you look, I think in kindergarten we only took 3 last year because we were so unsure about what those kindergarten numbers would be. We're normally, like I said, we'll do 1 per class or 2 per class depending on those numbers. And then in middle school, yeah, usually sometimes children are looking for a change. We have great programs, and so they'll join us at those ages. We have a little bit more space there because our teacher to student ratio is a little higher at that point. It's about 24-to-1 instead of 15-to-1 or 18-to-1.
There's also room in that middle school. The capacity of that school is got capacity, and the high school's got capacity. So
That's right.
it's different.
So you showed a chart of all the kids by grade. There were grade 13 students, like 15 or so. What is grade 13?
Yeah, great question. So we have to educate children on IEPs until they're 22 years old. So whether that's an out-of-district tuition if they're at a residential place, or they come with us for what's called transition services. So we have a cohort of kiddos, you can see on there, who attend school every day. They might be attending 4Cs, to go to Cape Cod Community College. They're learning work skills, but that's the law. We have them until their 22nd birthday in our schools. So at the high schools where we host that program, it's called Level Up. It's a great program. You probably see the kiddos out in the community, but that's the 13 plus.
Thanks.
Mhm.
All right, any more questions about or comments about the public school budget?
Just a quick question. We've heard that there's about 100 students that you're going to lose from the 8th grade going into the Bourne High School, so that your class next year will probably be even lower than what it is now. Do you anticipate doing any changes in the high school to adjust for these smaller classes?
So we've made those adjustments based on where we think we'll be. We put our schedules a little tighter, and so the quick answer is we've already thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
The long answer is, and as any of you know that are parents out there of that age student, they change their mind all the time. It's a moving target. So we'll get students who change their mind right up until the week before school, or come back on October 2nd. So that number isn't a hard and fast, but we've made assumptions based on a little larger than the class size we currently have in 9th grade.
For next year?
For next year, yes, our scheduling.
Okay.
And so one of those things, I mentioned things that were cut before we even got to the first round cuts. So we're bringing 8th grade to the high school, but we're not adding any staff for Unified Arts, which is, art, theater, drama, engineering, all of those things. We're using the current staff to be able to educate the 8th grade for all of those specials. So that's one of the ways we did that.
Has there ever been any consideration of sharing resources with Upper Cape Technical in terms of teachers that teach the same subject? If both sides have smaller than normal classrooms, could we use the same teacher for both schools and UCT?
In thinking about it, their schedule is vastly different. It's on a 2-week on, 2-week off. They go to shop for 2 weeks, and then so the schedules really don't sync. But there's always possibilities, I would say. We're currently right-sized for our high school for the students that we'll have there next year, which includes all of our 8th grade.
How many teachers are there for the 57 students?
So they're shared across grades.
Okay.
So I'd have to go back and look at that.
So there's 300 students in the high school. How many teachers would there be for 300 students?
I'd have to go back and look, yeah. And the thing about high school, for anyone who knows high school, is that you have to be certified in very specific areas. So we have to have the biology certification, the chemistry certification.
That's why I'm wondering, there's only 300 students. There's a lot of classes that you would have to offer. Like, what are the size of the classes in high school?
Right, you get down to a skeleton crew of of just the right amount of teachers that you need, and then we schedule around that. So some classes are smaller and then some are larger depending on how they all pan out. That's another reason why our 8th grade will go there, and it's all shared resources. We're not adding any teachers.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thanks so much.
Next, proposed capital budget adjustments.
So the capital budget adjustments for tonight are pretty easy. There's just one withdrawal from the May warrant, and that is the transfer station capital request from ISWIM. In the electronic packet that you received on Friday, there's a memo or an email from ASA, and they're not quite ready. So they're gonna wait until fall and come back with their transfer station project in the fall. So that one will come off of your sheet for May.
Thank you. Any comments, questions about the ISWIM transfer station? Okay, next, proposed operating budget adjustments.
I do have a couple of budget adjustments for the FY27 operating budget I want to go through. We've made some changes, especially to the sources and uses, because we've got a couple of things that we're trying to communicate that are unusual this year. So I want to, and we'll have a couple more meetings to talk through this if there are additional questions. But if we start in your electronic packet on page 41, this is showing the adjustments to the budgets for 300 and 301. So Bourne Public Schools is being adjusted downward $478,532. That is the deficit that we've been talking about, that the school committee voted to cut their budget to absorb the deficit. That's number one. The number two is the adjustment downward for Upper Cape Tech of $115,962. And that's the adjustment due to those additional 6 students being removed from the 10-125 numbers that we talked about. So the total education budget is adjusted downward $594,494. And then if you look at the last highlighted box there, 3/3/26 budget deficit is being zeroed out, okay? And then there's transfer to special education reserve. So in the past, we've transferred free cash into special education reserve. What Erica and I are recommending this year is that $115,926, it's not a transfer from free cash, it's raise and appropriate, but it goes, instead of the savings from the 6 students, instead of that falling back to the operating budget, it's going straight into the special ed reserve fund. So that's what we're trying to show there, and we'll talk about it again on the sources and uses and how we're trying to communicate it on the sources and uses. So any questions about these 2 adjustments? The cut from the Bourne Public School Committee, and then the cut, or the reduction, I should say, from the 6 students from Upper Cape Tech. Does that make sense? Okay. The next page are supplemental budget adjustments that the sewer commissioners have made. If there's any specific questions for this, I'll ask Erica to jump in, but these are things that the sewer commissioners voted at their last meeting, I believe. We can come back to that if anyone has any questions. And then in your packet is the sources and uses, which I also gave you a hard copy for. So if you recall, The first page are the sources, the revenue side, and then the second page are the uses on the expenditure side. So if you look at the first page, the new part that I want to draw your attention to is near the bottom. And we've called it use of reserves. The first column with numbers in it, the first column with numbers is the current fiscal year. And it says use of reserves, free cash for budget. And when we get to the adjustments that we're going to recommend for the special town meeting warrant, we're going to be recommending that we transfer $470,000 from free cash into FY26 operating budget for snow and ice. So we're, right now, we have a deficit in the snow and ice budget of just over $800,000 due to the winter. Now, you have the legal ability to raise that on the recap, which means you put it straight on the taxpayer. However, I feel very strongly that we have an obligation to mitigate that as much as possible and only raise the absolute minimum on the recap, if any. So when we get to free cash in a little bit, I'm going to talk about how we're funding that $470,000 for snow and ice. And then we're showing your free cash used for capital. And we've put in what we allocated for capital for the current year and what we're proposing for capital from free cash for FY27. Free cash for other are things like stabilization, compensated absences, capital stabilization. Those are the things that those are the other things we're funding from free cash. And then capital stabilization for debt service. We've talked about that a number of times. So that box is new. And if you look on the second page, and remember, the first page is the sources side, and then if you look on the second page, you've got the town budget, the schools, shared costs, then you see capital budgets, and then you've got your line for total general fund operating budget, GFOB, and then the next box is new on the sources and uses, and it's general articles. And we're listing the annual town meeting capital, the fall town meeting capital, transfers to reserves, and then you see the transfer to special education reserve. That's where we're showing on the sources and uses that we're funding that $115,962. That's where we're showing that it's where it's going into the special education reserve fund. And then the other articles are for FY27 are compensated absences and the human services grant program for $140,000. So we're trying to show where this money is moving between these reserves because they're not in a budget line. So that's why we've created these extra lines on the sources and uses. We're trying to communicate how that money is moving. Is there any questions right now about this? We'll keep talking about it. Yeah.
I mean, if you're just looking at the one that we just had last week, it's, it shows a 94 versus 92 and a 4.17 increase, and now it's a 1.21 increase. So the one that we were given on 3-3, the proposed budget for FY27 was 92,891. Now the proposed budget for FY27 is 94,907.
The general fund operating budget?
Yeah, the general fund expenses, yep.
For FY '27, general fund operating budget, FY '27, $84,586,115.
Okay, it's the general articles down below that raises it.
And the general article, so the general articles is new information that we're showing on the sources and uses.
Okay. All right, I'll have to look at it again.
And we're happy to, this is not on that previous version.
Right.
And the reason we're showing this is we feel that it's important to show how the special education reserve fund is being funded. Because it's not a transfer from free cash, it's a raise and appropriate, or raise and appropriate.
Raise and appropriate, okay.
But we will, yeah.
Hi, Erica.
Oh, if I may as well too, I think it would be helpful to understand as well that this more aligns with our financial statement presentation. So while you could have, you know, a small percentage increase or savings on the budgetary portion, if you spend down your free cash reserves, you're seeing it here. So you wouldn't be surprised if you saw a negative impact on the financial statements because you did decrease, you know, your savings balance because you used it, if that makes sense. But like Marlene said, it's strictly because we're showing those additional items here on the sources and uses.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have a question. I get this, and actually putting the general articles, and we had kind of, it used to be in sources and uses, and we had taken it out, but I think it helps you keep track of all the money, so
I think the town used it before my arrival.
Yeah, yeah.
But it does help, it show.
It helps you see like the whole, of everything, so you don't forget things. But I do have a question about OPEB.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we did any OPEB in the fall town meeting. And I know we've got the OPEB in the budget, and that's probably all we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanna make sure that we don't forget sewer and ice run.
Yep.
I don't know if there's an article in there that I missed, but.
We have that, we don't have it on the May, and we don't have it in the spring. We do have it for the fall though.
Okay, but did we do it last fall? I don't think we did, so I don't think we ever did that thing for the.
I'll have to double check. I know
Okay.
I have it on my list for the fall of '26.
Okay, I just don't wanna miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this makes sense, and I think it's a good idea to use that money that we got from the reduction of Upper Cape to fund that special ed reserve, so that we have that, you know, we're gonna take that money and put it right into, so I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a good idea, we just have to make sure that raise and appropriate it.
Right. So, which is why we want, which is really why I
Yeah.
think it's very important that we track it on the sources and uses.
So that's good.
And then I know we've talked about free cash a lot this budget season because it is constrained. We've talked about it with capital. We talked about it in December. There is a free cash analysis sheet in your packet. It's the last page in your packet. So I want to call your attention to, because of the snow and ice deficit this winter, we are spending the free cash down to 5.0%. So that's the absolute minimum that we would ever recommend you go. So we're taking everything we can from free cash and putting it towards the snow and ice deficit. We would like to fund the stabilization at $200,000. We're only recommending it be funded at $160,000. We're putting that 40 to snow and ice. I'm gonna recommend that the select board remove 2 articles from the warrant and not fund them. I'm gonna recommend the select board remove the non-capital equipment purchases and remove the firefighter pilot program, and put that free cash towards the snow and ice. So the cost of the firefighter pilot program ended up being $160,000, and the non-capital equipment purchase was $50,000. So for this town meeting, because of the snow and ice deficit, my recommendation is we have to defer those 2 articles until the fall, reconsider them again in the fall when free cash is certified, and put that free cash towards snow and ice. And then we will try to cover the rest of the snow and ice deficit internally with budget transfers at the end of the year. But remember, that will reduce the amount of turnbacks that will be turned back to free cash. So it's all the same money. We only have so much money, and the winter was expensive. But I do feel like we owe it to people to try to pay for it without raising it on the recap.
I just have one question, because I saw in the draft warrant that the current capital stabilization was blank. I'm interested in seeing the capital stabilization and the stabilization, like what we have and what we're going to have and why we're doing what we're doing, because that capital stabilization is a big number, and I just want to.
Yep, so we are recommending $850,000 go into capital stabilization, and that's essentially repaying half the purchase price of the fire station land. So that's, and then at the end of the month, which we're almost there, but tomorrow we'll get the balance in that capital stabilization and plug that in.
Thank you.
But we are recommending half of that purchase price go back in to get us closer to maintaining the 3 to 5 years of debt service.
Is there any average on the cash back from the departments of unused funds?
There is no average, and I will say, especially FY26, but even starting in FY25, we are budgeting way tighter. FY25, I think the town side turned back just slightly more than $1 million. And we know that it's going to be, we don't have a lot of vacancies. The big turnbacks are payroll vacancies. Mm-hmm. We don't have a lot of vacancies. We haven't had a lot of vacancies this year. We've been able to fill our staff. So I don't want to guess, but once we do our best to cover the snow and ice deficit, it's going to be less than $1 million.
All right, any more questions or comments about operating budget adjustments?
Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the select board? Second. All right, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're in an awful hurry to get out of here. You're not having fun with us.
I know, I feel bad you have to stay though.
That's right.
Don't worry, they have to talk about it tomorrow.
We start at 6
Long
tomorrow.
budget tomorrow.
Good luck.
Okay, next, these will be our votes on these articles.
Mm-hmm.
For the record, these ones hopefully be pretty non-controversial. So the first, pardon?
Do we have to do them tonight, or can we defer them for next meeting?
They're not on Wednesday's agenda, So you should do them tonight. Go fast.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, most are pretty straightforward. All right, so Article 1, the consent agenda, as you may recall, that's kind of just housekeeping.
So
items.
moved. I move to approve.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, everyone's here, so we do just a roll call vote. Well, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No roll call.
We have to do roll call?
I think so.
All right, well, it's.
Is there anybody on?
No, I think we have
If-
to roll call.
If they're unanimous, you don't have to do roll call. Only do roll call if there's anybody who doesn't want to do it. Because
Okay.
if it's unanimous,
Okay.
And that's all, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone's in
Okay.
favor, no negative, no abstentions. Next, to rescind borrowing authority, Article 6.
Which is what?
There was something we no longer need.
this was $2.1 million for the school wastewater treatment plant project that's not going forward.
I make a motion to approve?
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Next, committee reports. That's article for the town meeting to hear any committee reports.
Do you know who we're getting reports from?
Right now, I haven't heard of anybody, from anyone.
Okay,
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
second. Any further discussion on the committee reports article? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No, unanimous. Next, Human Services Grant Program.
Which one was that?
This will be $40,000
Oh.
from free cash.
That's an annual one that?
They do it every year.
Right, yeah.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Thanks. Next, non-capital projects and
This
equipment.
is one that I am going to recommend that the select board withdraw from the warrant, so.
This is the, okay, that was what you just talked about.
Yep.
The 50 for non, okay, so
Yes.
withdraw.
So we just skip it?
Skip it
assuming
for
they Take
now.
a recommendation? Okay.
Yeah.
Next, Article 26, local acceptance of abandoned property statute.
This allows the town, if we adopt this, it allows the town to go through the process to, especially for uncashed checks, we go through the process to try to find the person, and if there's so many years pass, then we can recoup the money instead of giving it to the state.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on this one? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? None. It's unanimous, thanks. Next, increased demand fees. This is essentially late fees
Yeah.
Yeah.
For property taxes.
from $15 to $30.
Yes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Abstentions? No, unanimous. Next, dog licensing fee. That's increased the fee of a dog license, right?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? None. Good. And finally, vital records fees.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Abstentions? None. All right, thanks. And then the minutes of March 9th, I think you had a chance to review these.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes of March 9th? Okay, all in favor of approving them?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous, thanks. So, we meet the day after tomorrow. You're still gonna be in town, right?
Yes, I'll be here Wednesday.
Thank you. Okay, motion to adjourn?
On the 6th,
Oh.
I'm gonna be, I'll have to zoom in,
All right,
but I'll be here.
thank you.
But we need everybody, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so she'll just be.
Okay, so
Oh.
what days are you trying to have a meeting here? Because I'm
1,
gonna be away
6,
all of them.
1, 6, 13. 15 is pretty optional.
Yeah, you don't need a quorum on the 15th. We can probably get away with, we need either the 6th or the 13th. We probably don't need both.
Either of those.
I'll
work
make
good.
one.
I would rather the 6th, so if we need additional time, we have it.
If everyone can make it on the 6th?
The 6th is.
Be a
Monday.
again.
What day?
A week
Next
from
Monday?
today?
It's
Yeah.
a Monday,
It's
yeah.
next Monday.
You'll be in a TSA line somewhere?
No, I'll already be there.
Well, good thing we have computers.
Yeah. All right, so we'll plan to meet on the 6th and see if we can
And
get
then we'll
everything done.
see if we can skip the 13th.
All
We're
right.
still doing the first, right?
Yes. Okay, there was a motion to adjourn. Can we do it?
I made the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.